Hey everyone, welcome back to my astrology channel. Today we're going to talk about Mars in your 11th house. To understand that, let's first talk about what is Mars. Okay, so what is Mars? Mars is, you can take Mars as a commander of the universe. So if Sun is the king and Moon is the queen, then Mars is a commander of the universe. So Mars is raw action, it's a warrior. Mars is going to go and get that action done, get that job done via the action. Okay, it doesn't think about the consequences, it just likes to get the job done. So, Mars is also courage, Mars is aggression. So, if you have someone sitting, if you have Mars sitting in the first house, that person may be very aggressive. We're going to talk about more qualities of that, but I wanted you to understand what Mars is. All right. So it's a warrior, it's a commander, it's aggressive. It can get temperamental very easily. By it, the native who has this placement can get aggressive very easily, can get angered very easily. Then they don't know what they're doing with their actions when they get angry, because commander's job, the warrior's job, is basically to go out there and do the war. They don't think who is getting killed, who's getting hurt, whose emotions are at line. So that's kind of like your Mars. Okay, and now let's talk about the three different aspects of Mars. Okay, to understand how and what Mars does on the house, we want to understand Mars and then the aspects. So Mars has three different aspects. First aspect is going to be on the fourth house from where Mars sits. The second aspect is going to be on the seventh house from where Mars sits. And the third aspect is going to be on the eighth house from where Mars sits. Why does Mars have the fourth aspect? Mars, because it's a warrior, and the fourth house in the Kalpurush Kundali is of the house of the home and the mother. So your homeland, your motherland. It's a house of happiness. So, warriors are supposed to protect your homeland, your motherland. So, Mars has that special aspect that no other planet has, the fourth aspect, to protect its motherland from where it's sitting. The second aspect is on the seventh house from where it's sitting. Every planet has a seventh aspect, and as I always say, it's kind of like give and take. You give and you get. So Mars by nature is a malefic. It's a natural malefic. So if you give that house malefic, you're going to get back malefic many folds. Just like I mentioned in my Jupiter videos, the seventh aspect, if you give it love, you get back love many folds. So that's kind of the seventh aspect, because it's a straight up 100% aspect on it, drishti, because it's the house is right in front of you. You can't miss it. You're going to look at it. So the next aspect is the eighth house. Why do we have the eighth aspect? Why does Mars have it? Well, in the Kalpurush Kundali, Mars rules the first and the eighth house. So Mars has a special aspect of watching over his own house. Okay, so eighth house is Scorpio, but whatever sign it's placed, it doesn't matter when Mars is aspecting it, because that's going to be the eighth aspect. No other planet has the eighth aspect. So Mars has the fourth and that eighth aspect separate from all the other planets. Jupiter has the 5, 7, 9. Mars has the 4, 7, and 8. Now the eighth aspect, what does Mars do over there? So eighth is his own house. What do you do when you look at your own house? You're going to try to kill off the enemies of that house. So for instance, let's say that that eighth aspect ends up being on the fourth house. Now the fourth house is the house of happiness, as I just mentioned. Now Mars is going to want to kill the enemies of the happiness for that native. So that's good. It may seem not good while it's happening, but at the end of the day, that's what Mars' goal is. So now that you understood what Mars is, what are the aspects, let's go into what Mars does when it sits in your house. We're going to talk about Mars in your 11th house. This is actually one of the great placements to have Mars in for you personally, perhaps, because Mars sitting in the 11th house are the Trishadai homes, 3, 6, and 11. It gives the native a lot of energy to do and get things done. So Mars sitting here in 11th house is going to have you expend a lot of energy to get your higher income up. What's house 11? House 11 is a house of higher income. Okay, if house 10 is work, house 11 is income you get from your work. It's also your status, your achievements, your rewards, your successes. House 11 is the house of your older siblings. So with this Mars placement, you may not have older siblings of your own. This is also a house of your relatives, your father's younger siblings, etc. So Mars sitting here, and it's also your social network, your friend circle as you're older, a lot of your friends. So Mars sitting here, you are going to be expending a lot of your energy in this house, which means you will be spending a lot of time with your social network, with your friends, with things that get you the higher income, with your networking, with your older siblings. But like I said, you may not have older siblings, but if you do, you could have some aggressive relationships with them. You'll be spending a lot of time trying to get your success, awards, achievements, things like that. That's where you'll be spending a lot of energy on. Okay. Let's talk about the aspects of Mars. The first aspect is on your second house. That's the fourth aspect. So what does it do? So it does warfare to try to protect that home. How does Mars know how to do warfare? Mars in these days is more about speech, aggressive speech. So in this particular scenario, Mars may have aggressive speech towards his family. What is house 2? House 2 is your family that you're grown up in, that you're born to. It's also your speech. It's also your mouth, food that you put into your mouth. It's also the values that you learn as you're growing up. It's also your wealth. Okay, so when Mars sitting here is placing that fourth aspect, if Mars is benefic for your horoscope, you may not see these things as bad as you would if it was a malefic or if there were other associations. So if you had other associations also coming to your second house, it could turn out to be more malefic. Now, more than likely, you would have a good family. More than likely, if it's benefic for you, you'll have a good family. However, there would be harsh speech in your family. You could have harsh speech with your family and you could ruin your relationship with your family due to your harsh speech. Okay, be careful on what you put into your mouth. This particular placement can result you in eating unhealthy foods over time. The seventh aspect of Mars here would be on the fifth house. What is house 5? House 5 is your children, your self-expression, your romance, your love. It is a house of sports. It is also the house of your past life good deeds, etc. So when Mars is sitting in the 11th house, aspecting the 5th house, it is going to have the same give and take relationship that I said. If you're able to give it time, it's going to give you its time. If you give it aggressiveness, it's going to give you aggressiveness back. So when you have Mars sitting in your 11th house, you may be more focused. Your energy may be more on to how to make higher income, to hang out with your friends, do more connections, do more networking groups, spending more time with your older siblings if you have them, your relatives, your father's younger siblings. So that's kind of where most of your time would be. You may be spending more time in figuring out how to get that higher achievements, the award, success, things like that. So that would make you suffer that time with house 5, which is your romance, your love, which is your children, of that nature. So be watchful of that. Try to give everybody equal time if you have Mars in this placement, and you should be fine. Now, Mars's next aspect is the 8th aspect on the 6th house. What is 6th house? It's the house of your pain, debt, disease. It is also your enemies, your competition. It is your daily job, your service job, your pets. Now, when Mars places an aspect on 6th house or sits in 6th house due to the three Shaddai homes, 3, 6, and 11, it's a good aspect. It is killing your enemies. It's killing your pain, your debt, your disease, your competition. any kind of conflicts you have in life. It's killing all of that. So you can't really have enemies if you think about it. With this kind of a placement, you generally don't have enemies. Perhaps you're such a good person that people don't consider you their enemies because Mars is sitting there and just killing your enemies. So that's really good. But the only downside to this is it may kill your daily job. So one placement best for you would be to do your own business. Because if you're working for someone, if you're doing a service for someone, it may kill that service. Well, you may see that you may have job changes often. So say you're a doctor, surgeon, or a lawyer, or a bank person, or a financier. You may have consistent jobs. You may just have a lot more turnover, in terms of you switching jobs constantly. So that's something you will see with this home. You will also have the most transformation from this house. This would be your most strugglesome house through your whole life. You may feel that your job, your business, it's so struggling. The job would be the most struggling. No matter where you go, you're going to face so much struggle in that job. And you'll eventually, due to everything you've learned throughout that, your life in that job, you may transform yourself through all of that. So I hope, now if you see this in your chart, you have Mars in your 11th house, please put down in the comments whether you can resonate with this reading. And we do provide personal horoscope readings for your chart, so reach out to us in the link in the video description. Also, please don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and share the channel if you found this channel to be helpful. So thank you so much for watching.